Two numbers define the property tax debate in Florida in the summer of 2026. $470 million, what the state's fiscal agency documents as excessive spending by Miami-Dade County in the last fiscal year. Between $697 million and $977 million, the impact the county projects for its finances if the amendment is ratified. Florida voters decide on November 3, 2026. Key findings. 3 data points summarize the state of the debate. First, the amendment eliminates the non-school property tax for approximately 60% of homestead owners by 2028. Savings in Broward for a $350,000 home reach $2,672 annually. Second, the impact for Miami-Dade ranges from $340 million per year, according to the Florida Association of Counties, to $977 million combined over 2 years, according to Mayor Cava's letter to union leaders. Third, the core debate is not whether public services are necessary, but whether Miami-Dade has a revenue problem or a spending problem. What happened? Governor DeSantis calls the special session of June 1st and 2nd, 2026, under the title Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. The Florida House approves with 75 votes in favor and 26 against. The Senate, 30-9. 3 Democratic senators crossed the aisle: Mac Bernard, Darrell Rousson, and Barbara Sharieff. The amendment raises the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027 and to $250,000 in 2028. The November 3rd ballot requires 60%. The spending restriction. The package includes a constitutional restriction limiting the use of property tax to 7 categories: public safety, education, infrastructure, natural resources, bonds and debt, retirement benefits, and local government operations. A broad 7th category, expenditures approved by the governing body that general law does not prohibit, leaves the door open for future judicial interpretations on discretionary spending. The DeSantis argument. For the governor, the starting point is not the county budget, but the homeowner's wallet. The post-COVID real estate boom raised property values between 40 and 80% from 2020 to 2024. The official SaveOurHomesFL.com calculator shows each owner their specific savings by address. According to the governor, 60% of homestead owners pay 0 in non-school property taxes by 2028. His central fiscal argument: local governments do not have a revenue problem, they have a spending problem. Miami-Dade at the center. On the floor of the Florida Senate on June 2, 2026, Miami-Dade becomes the central case. Senator Brian Avila is direct. The county shows signs of neglect, mismanagement, and short-sighted decision-making. Senator Ileana Garcia speaks of bodyguards and Uber Eats for commissioners. Senator Jason Pizzo goes further. I find it pathetic what Miami-Dade spends on. I do not want to see trips to Qatar, parades, and stages anymore. Lawmakers present the salaries of at least 12 social media specialists employed by the county, ranging from $69,000 to $127,000 annually. The deficit and the report. On September 18, 2025, Mayor Cava presents an official slide showing a $473 million deficit for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. 81.8% comes from the county administration's own spending decisions. The Florida Doge's 99-page report documents the context. The county general fund grows 82.5% in 8 years, while the population grows less than 3%. Dozens of engineering contracts for exactly $999,999.90, 10 cents below the threshold requiring board approval. The county responds that tracking those contracts would require a Herculean effort. The confrontation. The argument that Miami-Dade has a spending problem does not come first from Tallahassee. Commissioner Roberto Gonzalez plants it at the Board of County Commissioners in September 2025, 9 months before the special session, accusing the administration of a total lack of information and transparency during the entire budget process. 4 months later, the Doge report names Gonzalez by name and cites the hearings where he made those accusations. Mayor Cava responds that the commissioner's speech demonstrates a lack of knowledge of the budget process and that he cancelled meetings at the last minute to score political points. The salaries. Public payroll records show County Attorney Geraldine Bonson-Keenan earns $455,541 annually. The United States presidential salary is $400,000. More than 40 of the county's 100 highest paid employees belong to the county attorney's department. The question Avila leaves open on the Senate floor. Can a system that grows its general spending 82.5% in 8 years, while its population grows less than 3%, actually have a revenue problem? Why this matters. Florida is one of 9 states with no state income tax. If the amendment is ratified and the legislature fulfills the total elimination mandate, Florida would combine the absence of state income tax with the elimination of the homestead property tax, a combination without precedent in the fiscal history of the United States. Hawaii currently has the nation's lowest effective property tax rate at around 0.29%. Florida, with this proposal enacted, would eliminate it entirely. Millage and revenue. Between fiscal year 2020 to 2021 and fiscal year 2025 to 2026, Miami-Dade's total millage drops 2%. In the same period, property tax revenue rises 55.2%, from $2,094,000,000 to $3,251,000,000. The millage drops, the revenue climbs. The county captures the automatic growth of assessed values instead of returning it. Timeline. The proposal did not originate at the June 2026 special session. In 2024, DeSantis articulates it during the Republican presidential campaign. In the 2025 session, a bipartisan committee produces 7 proposals that fail to advance. In January 2026, the DOJ publishes the 99-page report. In the regular 2026 session, the House passes with 80 votes, but the measure dies in Senate appropriations. The governor calls the special session. On June 1st, it begins. On June 2nd, both chambers vote the same day. The opposition coalition, resistance organizes on 3 fronts: county executives, Cava leads with a Herald op-ed, a letter to union leaders lobbying in Tallahassee, and a joint letter with the 34 municipalities. Jerry Demings of Orange County declares, "This will defund essential public services." Bipartisan legislative criticism. Former Republican Senator Jeff Brandes offers the most concise summary. This is not a tax cut. It is a tax shift. Independent experts. The Tax Foundation calculates that replacing the property tax with sales tax would require raising the rate from 6 to 15.34%. Senators who voted no. The 9 no votes in the Senate are all Democrats. They represent exactly the counties Avila names by name as those that raised their millage above 100% of the maximum: Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. The geographic coincidence between the opposition bloc and the counties with the greatest spending expansion is the implicit sub-argument Avila leaves open before the chamber. The Cava strategy. The county administration deploys 9 documented components of response: Herald op-ed, direct social media post, formal letter to legislators, joint letter with the 34 municipalities, contracted lobbying in Tallahassee, millage freeze, legislative coordination through Commissioner Vicky Lopez, alignment with the Florida Association of Counties and Florida League of Cities, and a direct letter to union leaders on June 1st, 2026. The letter to unions projects losses of $367 million in 2027 and $609 million in 2028, combined $977 million. The discrepancy with the Herald op-ed, which projected $697 million combined, has not been reconciled publicly by the administration. The numbers. Impact estimates for Miami-Dade range from $340 million annually, according to the Florida Association of Counties, to $990 million in potential shortfall, according to Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. In between, $925 million in 2 years, according to property appraiser Regalado. Statewide, $4.6 billion in 2027 and $8.4 billion in 2028. What happens to services? Mayor Cava warns at the March 17, 2026 hearing, the impact does not just affect nonprofits, it affects transit, animal services, road repair, parks, and every general fund component. Even police and fire are not protected because the restriction freezes them at the current level without allowing future growth. The union letter adds the labor dimension, possible position freezes, staffing reductions, and restrictions on compensation growth. The cost of living and the exodus. The debate does not happen in the abstract. The average rent in Miami in June 2026 is $3,195 per month, 33% above the national average. Between July 2024 and July 2025, more than 72,000 residents leave Miami-Dade, making it the third county with the greatest population loss in the country that period. The paradox: those leaving do so because of rental costs, not property taxes. They are not homestead owners. The amendment does not benefit them directly. For those who stay and own a homestead, the savings are real and calculable. The law already in effect. CSSB 4F takes effect on June 2, 2026, regardless of November's result. The law changes the millage ceiling. It is no longer the rolled back rate adjusted for per capita income growth. The ceiling is now the pure rolled back rate. To exceed it, Miami-Dade needs 2/3 of the board, unanimity, or a referendum. This restriction already applies to next fiscal year's budget process. What the amendment guarantees: the constitutional text directly guarantees a $150,000 exemption in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028, adjusted for inflation. The growth cap on non-homestead assessed values drops from 10 to 5%. What it does not guarantee: the school exemption stays at $25,000, unchanged. The promise of total elimination has no timetable in the constitutional text itself. The legislature must provide by general law a schedule for complete elimination, but with no deadline or enforcement mechanism. The electoral timeline: the amendment requires 60% on the November 3, 2026 ballot. That threshold, raised from 50% in 2006, has historically blocked multiple popular amendments. Legal experts anticipate judicial challenges given the proposal's economic scope. At the time this article was published, no lawsuit had been filed. The question: what is at stake in November is a question about who defines local government efficiency. For DeSantis and supporters, local governments grew their budgets on the back of an artificial real estate boom, and the amendment forces them to become more efficient while returning purchasing power to families. For Cava and opponents, the cost of services does not disappear when revenue disappears, it shifts, or the service disappears. Jeff Brandes, former Republican senator, offers the summary: this is not a tax cut, it is a tax shift. That is exactly the question Florida voters will answer on November 3, 2026. Full article from News Miami-Dade with 59 verified sources at newsmiamidade.com. Share it before November.